Coming up on this episode of The Social Hour, YouTube has launched a whole new comment experience. You might like it. Tumblr wants you to tag all your friends, and who's really using Instagram? All that and more next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for The Social Hour is brought to you by Cashfly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is The Social Hour with Sarah Lane and Amber MacArthur, episode 145, recorded Thursday, January 17th, 2014. This episode of The Social Hour is brought to you by 99 Designs, the world's largest graphic design marketplace. 99 Designs connects businesses seeking quality, affordable designs with a community of more than 225,000 graphic designers. Visit 99designs.com/social hour to receive a free Power Pack upgrade valued at $99. Hey everybody, welcome to another fancy edition of The Social Hour. I don't really know why I said fancy. Maybe it's because we're at our fancy new time on Thursdays at 11 a.m. Pacific. 2 p.m. Eastern. One day I'm going to get that right. I'm Sarah Lane at Twit World Headquarters in Petaluma, California.
And I'm Amber MacArthur, and I'm back in Toronto after being on the road for quite a few weeks. Last week I was in Kentucky. The weeks before I was in Florida. And it's nice to be back, Sarah. My own little studio. I feel like the tech gremlins are not going to be around today. Knock on wood somewhere. And yeah, I avoided winter weather for almost a month now, but I'm back into it.
Is that what we call it when something goes wrong and the tech gremlin has gotten into the system somehow and caused some mischief?
That's what I'm calling it, yes.
Like
although I can't complain because last week was actually pretty good when I was in Kentucky. So, so far, so good this week, and excited to be at our new time. So I think this is a much better time, as we've talked about a couple times on the show, and lots to talk about this week on The Social Hour.
Yeah, in fact, let's start with some YouTube news, Google news, I guess you would call it. So Google has listened to the outcry from users who were not so excited when YouTube made the switch to Google Plus comments. If you wanted to comment on a YouTube video, then it turned into you'd have to comment using your Google Plus account. And a lot of folks just felt that that was annoying. They wanted to keep it in the YouTube experience. So now there are native YouTube comments. The comments well, there are actually kind of a lot of tools that they've added to the comment section. Not only is it reverted back to something that feels like more of a YouTube experience rather than that pushing Google Plus on people, which Google keeps doing. I don't know why they don't understand by now that people don't really like that. But you have a new comment management page, so you can respond to comments, moderate all your comments in one place. If you spend a lot of time on YouTube, particularly if you're a content creator and you're uploading a lot of stuff, that comes in really handy. It almost makes it feel a little bit more like, you know, the back end of a blog, where if you've got a lot of comments, you want to make sure that you're moderating them and, you know, you're able to delete stuff that isn't appropriate and that sort of thing, and just engage with your audience a little bit more. Makes sense to me, Amber. I think YouTube comments they've always been known as, you know, one of the worst places for comments that you could possibly find on the internet. So what should YouTube do? I think giving content creators more control over what's shown is the right step.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people shy away from using YouTube in the first place, not necessarily just for watching videos, but for uploading videos, because maybe they're fearful of the comments, a lot of negativity all the time. So it seems to me that this new commenting system will allow people to better manage, like you said, some of the negative comments and moderate some of those comments, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you put, you know, a really nice video out there. The reality is that I think the proportion of negative comments on YouTube is definitely higher than any other social network I've ever seen, and all of us need a better way to be able to manage that. So it seems good, but in some ways it's almost like they just went back to, in some respect, to the old way of doing things, right, Sarah?
Yeah, it does seem a little bit like a revert, but I think it's more of a, hey, let's rethink this comment system a little bit more. So in a way, it's not so much that like, oh, well, YouTube had to, you know, eat its words and revert back to the way that we did things in the old way. It really is a whole new feature set, and it's comment based, and I think that that's a good thing. The Wild West of comments, I think more and more, even though there's a certain amount of, hey, let the people say what they want to say, it just gets out of control so quickly. On all note, I mean, anywhere that there are comments available and anybody can post things anonymously and that sort of thing, it's moving away from that, although maybe it can suppress, I don't want to say free speech because that's a whole nother argument, but suppress the way people would actually like to organically speak is a good thing, because it just kind of keeps the peace. Especially, you know, with YouTube, you get enough people who look at a video and it's like, I mean, the comments are thousands and thousands of comments. I mean, it's really something that if they want it to be a tool that people want to use at all, they have to let the users have more control over what it looks like and how it acts.
Especially, I think, as you get a younger generation using YouTube. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to recently who've told me that their kids are on YouTube all the time, uploading gaming videos that they're creating. And a lot of these kids are under 10 years old. So I think there's something nice about kind of having the ability to clean up those comments and manage them a bit better, because I just see the population on YouTube is skewing that much younger. And I think it's going to continue to do so as a new generation starts using all these tools. I might have mentioned on the show before, but my little guy, he has his own YouTube channel where he only has one video where he's trying to teach other kids how to play Minecraft. But you know, he's 4, almost 5. So if you're that young, we just don't need to see any of those negative comments and have any of the kids read them. Well, he can't read yet, but you know where I'm going.
Yeah, exactly. Well, speaking of reading, the whole phenomenon of whether content should be saved forever somewhere on the internet, or whether the idea of the Snapchatization of apps and sharing, where things are only shared for a short amount of time and then disappear into the ether, is an interesting one. And we know that in the past, Mark Zuckerberg, obviously CEO of Facebook, was interested in purchasing Snapchat, or at least having a serious conversation about it. And Snapchat is not interested in being purchased, at least not by Facebook, at least not at the time that they were approached, which was last year. Mm-hmm. There's a cool article over on, it's on TechCrunch, about a talk that Zuckerberg had done with Stanford president John Hennessy over at on the Stanford campus at their Memorial Auditorium, and they talked about a lot of stuff, but there were some interesting choice words that Zuckerberg had for Snapchat. He said that Snapchat was a privacy phenomenon, which is, and that's not a lack of privacy, even though Snapchat just had a security breach recently. But it just, in essence, the way that the app works and the way that we get used to apps like this working in the future is a good thing for privacy. And what's interesting about that is that, of course, Zuckerberg, more than anybody else, probably knows how, when privacy issues come about, especially on a network like Facebook, people get freaked. Sometimes people even overreact, or get angry and boycott things. And that's what Facebook has. It's infamous for, I would say, is privacy issues and trying to figure out how to navigate, the future of our privacy. So it makes me wonder, what is Facebook going to do about this whole phenomenon? Because if it's a good thing, or certainly something that's really disrupting the marketplace, sorry to use that buzzword disrupting, but it seems appropriate, and they can't buy Snapchat, then what are we going to get? The Facebook version of Snapchat? I mean, that's got to be right around the corner.
Yeah, one would assume so. I think the really interesting thing with this talk that he gave is that it was a pretty low-key talk. I'm not sure he necessarily realizes that his words will eventually spread everywhere over the internet. But down within the article, when he gets into the conversation even more about privacy, he really refers to Facebook as being one of the first places where people could go and have private conversations, kind of saying that they were the first to really enable people to have private communities, private conversations. And it's almost a bit like he's patting himself on the back for having a private network. And I think it's furthest from the truth as far as how people really look at Facebook. I mean, they think of it as something that doesn't necessarily really respect their privacy. So getting a bit of mixed messages here, it's an interesting article. There's a lot to read as far as the quotes from the talk that he did, but it almost looks like he has an inflated view of how Facebook does, in fact, protect your privacy.
Yeah, there's even another article over on The Verge about Facebook's strategy for 2014 as it relates to standalone mobile apps. Right now, you can think of, I think, okay, well, Facebook standalone mobile apps, there's Instagram, which started out independent, but that's definitely a Facebook property. There's Messenger, which I like a lot. I know that you have to be messaging people on, well, actually they allow you to message people that aren't on Facebook anymore, but that's, I find that to be a really good, solid messaging product. One of many that you have a choice of, but I love those. But that, I mean, that looks to be what Zuckerberg knows is something that's working for people. Yes, you can share a photo that you posted on Instagram to Facebook easily, but even if you don't, I think that he understands and the company understands that you're not going to be able to sell everybody on the concept of Facebook as a whole necessarily. Some of us are like, yeah, sure, I'll use all the features. Other people, it's just too much, or they like certain things and not others. And if you are going to add a service, call it a Snapchat competitor or whatever, that maybe works against what you would think of the legacy of Facebook, where things are not being saved and categorized and put into folders and that sort of thing. As long as a subset of the billions of users who use Facebook want it, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, I do agree. I mean, I do find myself with my habits on Facebook lately, though, Sarah, it's almost at the point where I feel like for the first time ever in my history on Facebook, I could actually leave Facebook and not really feel like I'm missing out on anything. I don't know if I would have said that even 6 months ago, but I kind of go in there and I feel like, yeah, there are all these different tools and I know that I have a big community there, but I'm just finding the quality of the conversation and the content it seems really diluted. And it's one of those social networks that if I had to live without it, I truly could live without it. And I think the move of teens towards using Snapchat really reflects the fact that they do, in fact, care more about having those private conversations. And it is a big backlash towards Facebook in many ways because their privacy wasn't really necessarily respected. And not just from the functionality standpoint, but also knowing that their parents and grandparents were signing on in record numbers. And they just couldn't have that private network that I think Zuckerberg initially really thought he was able to provide them.
I agree. I think, yeah, there's a shift. We keep hearing, every 3 days, I feel like there's, an article that screams like teens have disappeared from Facebook. And you talk to anybody who's, I don't know, under 25 and they're like, no, everybody has a Facebook account. So I don't think it's wrong to say that there's a shift, but at the same time, I don't think it's doomsday for Facebook, quite the opposite. But there is a saturation level, and with young people, they can be fickle, and there is certainly a trend towards new services. I know some people are still in our, even in our chat room right now. They're like, "What does Snapchat do exactly?" I mean, I consider
Yes.
Snapchat this very creative way to communicate with people. It's almost a challenge to have a conversation over Snapchat, but that's sort of part of the fun of it.
Yeah, it's more interesting in some ways.
Yeah, it does. I've got a friend who's in Vegas right now, and he's sort of keeping me abreast of what he's, he'll like take a video of a slot machine, but we're also making plans to hang out in a couple of weeks, and the whole thing is happening over Snapchat, and it works in a weird way. It's hard to explain, but it's fun. I'm having a good time doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think more and more people obviously are flocking to Snapchat. And I think even though I don't think Facebook is necessarily doomed, we just got a tweet from Nate, who's watching the show for the first time live, who said that he deactivated his Facebook account in December. So I think there's still lots of people joining. But at the end of the day, I think people are just kind of diversifying a little bit with the different social networks that they use. And Snapchat continues to be one of those networks up there. Now, Sarah, before the show, we were talking about another social network, which I know that you used to use a lot. You were probably one of the bigger Tumblr fans that I have known over the years, but you're not using it as much. I don't know if it has anything to do with what's happened recently with some of these changes, but this is an interesting article.
Yeah, so Yahoo bought Tumblr, and that didn't really, it wasn't as if I thought that was going to change the service all that much. And honestly, as far as my experience posting and liking other people's posts on Tumblr, it really makes no difference at all. But here's my Tumblr page, and what's a new feature that Tumblr has introduced, and I think it's smart, even though it's a little bit of a catch-up game. Let's say that I want to add a new text-based update, and I say I am thinking about, and I want to tag you, Amber. Now I'm just going to go ahead and guess that if you have a Tumblr account, it's Amber Mac. So now, as you can see, what I've done is very Facebook-like, very Instagram-like. I'm going ahead and tagging you in a post right now. And if I go ahead and post that, then your name is clickable. If somebody wants to click on your name, then it's going to dump them over to your blog. You don't even have an avatar, so it's clear that you're not using Tumblr.
Yeah, I actually don't think I could get Amber Mac when I first wanted to sign up, and that was one of the reasons. Yeah, I think it's someone else.
Interesting. But you see how it works. I mean, we're all sort of used to how that works. But until today, you couldn't do that on Tumblr. And the thing that's interesting about Tumblr is, yeah, if you go to my standalone Tumblr blog, it started out as a micro-blogging type of format type thing. What's the last thing I posted? Kanye West as a waterfall. Wow. Okay. Oh no, Gucci Mane as a waterfall. When was this even?
What
December
is that?
8th. That's what I did. 49,000 notes, guys. So it wasn't just me that thought it was awesome.
Ah.
Of course, I immediately was like, oh, it's weird. It must be Kanye, but no, it was Gucci Mane. But yeah. So this is you can just sort of go to saralane.tumblr.com. But I think the beauty is more of categories and tags. If I want to search for things that have been posted on Tumblr that are tagged tech, for example, that's become easier than ever. But there is really no way to start gathering more information about users themselves. So if I start tagging you in posts, Amber, just like again on Facebook or something, the network knows more about the fact that we're connected, the fact that maybe you and I are tagged in a video or a photo, that sort of thing. So not a huge change, but probably something that is smart for Tumblr to introduce going forward. But yeah, that said, like you said, I don't find myself using it all that much. And I don't blame Yahoo at all. I don't think the Tumblr service seems to have changed at all. But there's something about it that it's almost like everybody I follow on Tumblr I think is really cool. I've got one of my cousins, Will Wheaton, there's the Verge account, Merlin Mann, Lil Bub, there's the New Yorker.
It's a great variety of people.
All right, exactly. It's just a little bit of everything. But something about it feels like, it's too much, And maybe it's because my attention span is shot. But I'm not spending a lot of time wasting time on this. It's like if you said you've got an hour, Tumblr or Pinterest, choice is made. It's Pinterest all the way.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder too, maybe people, I hate to say this because I don't know if it's necessarily true. I wish it were true, but maybe people want more depth too in what they're doing online. And I only say that, and I know this isn't in our rundown, but I look at Medium and I see a lot of people starting to blog even more on Medium. I recently wrote an article where I was talking a little bit about Medium, so spent some more time there. And to me, it just feels like, wow, there's a little more depth there than I think some of the other tools out there. Because when I look at Tumblr now at the average account, I mean, there's nothing unique about it. I mean, this is stuff that I'm seeing people also post on Facebook, on BuzzFeed. Like there is that sense that it's so pop culture driven and there's no depth there that I just, I can see it anywhere. Whereas with Medium, I feel like there maybe is something kind of special about going back to the days of early blogging where the articles that were just a little more lengthy, but also more depth overall, I think.
It's really funny how these social networks get sort of reputations. I mean, just in our chat room, for anybody who's watching us live, we've got Churcher who's like, Pinterest, don't like it. And then JC Calhoun says, Medium, blogger for hipsters. And Pinterest is for girls. And there are these, I don't know, it's like people kind of get in their mind. I mean, the thing is that Medium is just a platform. It's all about who's writing stuff on Medium. And yeah, there's a little bit of like, especially in Silicon Valley, there's this weird thing where people say, there's a lot of like, well, I can't use the word that I want to use, but use your imagination, DBs that are posting stuff on Medium. And it's like, well, but any blogging platform is going to have enough of that. It's just sort of newer and the spotlight's on it. And Tumblr's the same way. It's like, there's a lot of meme stuff and like animated GIFs and that sort of thing happening on Tumblr. Why is it happening? I don't really know, but again, it's not, Tumblr is just the vehicle to be able to share with each other. So, and then of course, yeah, Pinterest still has that whole, it's crafting for ladies, even though it can be that or it can be anything. It's just, somebody built it. It's a
But
it's a bunch of programs.
I've seen some interesting stats just this past week about the gender divide with different social networks. I think with Snapchat specifically, there was an article that came out maybe in All Things D that talked about the Snapchat audience being about 70% women. There's been a stat going around for a while with Pinterest about 80% females. And it's kind of neat to watch the gender divide and just see how many more women are really flocking to these different social networks, because I don't think it was necessarily always that way. So for people in the chat room who think that, Pinterest is just for the ladies, a lot of these other networks, I think, are, the majority of users are actually female in many cases.
Yes. And that's probably a larger conversation about, the idea of sharing and the way that different genders communicate with each other. But I'm not going to touch that because it's not. Yeah.
It's not going to go well.
No, it's not going to go well. And I also sort of consider us like slightly weird versions of women anyway, just because we have weird jobs and think about weird things. But that's also another conversation.
Wow, that is getting into a whole other conversation. Okay, let's go on. Pandora. So Pandora is one of those services that is not available in Canada. Most of the services we talk about in the show are, but Pandora not quite yet. But this looks kind of cool, and it makes me even more jealous that we don't have Pandora here. We did one day at one point, but not anymore. And now they've come out with new personalized station recommendations.
They have, and this is it's fun for me because I'm a big Pandora user. But I've got my Pandora app open on my phone. Obviously, it's there's web app as well. But what's interesting about it is like, okay, so these are all the radio stations that I've created for myself. I've got Arcade Fire Radio. I did like a Christmas radio station, Bruce Springsteen, blah, blah, blah. But then at the bottom, there are some stations that I might like based on not just stations that I've already created, but thumbs up and downing songs that I either liked or didn't like, that sort of thing. And even, because you might say, well, what were we talking about music on a social show? There is a social element. I can see what, my friend Ryan Sarver is now listening to Dead Mouse Radio, or he was 3 hours ago, and that sort of thing. So there's certainly a social element to be able to not just see what your friends are doing, but liking their stuff. And that all also goes into what stations get recommended to you. If I click on more recommendations, it's really thinks that I would like the Skrillex station. I guess maybe I would, and capital cities and that sort of thing. So that's interesting. What's different about it though, and if you bring in for the other people who don't also have Pandora Radio, Brian. Wake up, Brad. who don't have Pandora. Spotify actually had its own interesting announcement today that really makes me think that Pandora and Spotify are more close competitors than any of the other offerings. Is that Spotify has stations as well, but you can do artist-specific stations. So if I'm like, I love Skrillex, that's all I want to hear for the next hour, I could play for free, even if I'm not a premium subscriber on Spotify, only Skrillex music. I just don't know what's coming up next. It's a fun little shuffle type of a situation. Pandora doesn't work that way because they've got a whole different like royalty-based model. So Pandora, if I say it's Skrillex station, it's Skrillex and what Pandora considers to be artists that are like Skrillex. And I don't know what's better. I actually think that both experiences are kind of fun. Sometimes I want to be surprised. Sometimes I want to have more control. But what do you think, Amber? I mean,
they're both pretty slick. I mean, I think at the end of the day, right? Lots of great services or great functionality to be able to recommend different music. So if you're into that, I think it's awesome. And Sarah, it's not that I wasn't listening to you talk, but I have to tell you, and I know for our audio listeners, they won't be able to see this, but for some reason today on the show, it seems like there's always someone behind you in that window doing something strange. So I think he's gone again. Okay. Yeah, it's been a whole other show.
Sabotaging my show.
In the window behind you. So
now it's a truck, right? So yeah, you never know who's going to be parking on the. You know what I'm going to do next? Well, I'm probably going to forget, but I will try. Because often when I come in the morning, that space is somewhat empty out in front. I'm going to park my car in front of this
smart.
I don't know, Titanic ship window-ish thing behind me.
Your porthole.
My porthole, yeah. I was like, what do you call it, Titanic? That can't be right. I'm in the genre. And then I'm going to have more control over what's shown
That's a
behind
good
me.
idea. Just speaking about Pandora Radio not being available in Canada, one of our listeners at Mac_Interactive just mentioned that it used to also be available in the UK, not available there anymore. So I think we're making a lot of people very jealous with not having access to Pandora, because I've always thought that they had one of the smartest, intelligent engines out there for recommendations. I've always felt like they were kind of spot on with what they would recommend when I was using the service. So again, another reason to be jealous about it. Now, Sarah, we were just talking about the gender divide. I don't want to get caught up on it, but I do want to say in this next article that you found, talking about Instagram and some of the demographics, it goes into the divide again, talking about how approximately 68% of Instagram users are female. And this is kind of interesting too, that the divide between Android and Apple devices is 50-50. Kind of surprised me. You don't get that with a lot of the more popular apps out there.
Yeah, especially since Instagram was sort of infamously not available on Android for a long time. I mean, it was a wildly popular iOS app, and it started to become sort of like a joke, like, why won't Instagram come to Android? And then, of course, once it did, I remember there was a very small window where it was like, is this going to change Instagram? It's like, no, you just follow who you want to follow, and who really cares what device that they're using? You just want people to post as cool pictures as possible. But yeah, evenly divided, so that's interesting. I guess that's probably, I would think that would probably mirror a lot of Facebook in general. Well, Facebook probably skews Android, really, because of just all the people in the world and the platform. But yeah, Instagram's 50-50, but heavily towards women. I mean, almost 70% of Instagram's users are women. And I don't really feel like I understand why that is, unless there's some sort of, there's that visual aspect. You know, maybe that's what Pinterest also has as well, that somehow works for women more than men. I certainly don't feel like I follow more women than men, or I really have more women commenting on my photos. In fact, I would say it's probably more heavily men, but that's probably more maybe the Twit audience more than anything else. But then Instagram also leans towards people in urban areas. At least in the U.S., 70% of U.S. adult residents live in urban areas, use Instagram, 11% in more suburban or rural areas. I don't know why that would be either. Well, I mean, it's not as if a picture needs to be in an urban area to be cool or look good.
But if you look at the breakdown as far as age, they also say in this article approximately 90% of the 150 million users on Instagram are under the age of 35. I don't know if it's safe to say that maybe some people living in cities would perhaps be a bit younger than before you're moving out to the suburbs. But the big age bracket here is 18 to 34. And if some people are thinking, okay, well, how do all of these stats affect me? I know there's a lot of people who listen to the show who are managing social media for their companies, or maybe that's a job that they're looking to get into. And the reality is this is probably one of the better articles that I've ever seen on Instagram in terms of the breakdown of the stats, because if you're a company that isn't trying to target this audience, the 18 to 34-year-old, and we know that's 90% of the users currently on Instagram, then maybe it's not the right tool for you. So it's a really great article, and we'll put a link to it in our show notes.
Before the show, Amber, you had mentioned that you had just sort of stopped using Instagram and just kind of didn't miss it. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. You know, I've always been an early adopter, and I'm also an early abandoner, if I can say that. And I think for the most part with Instagram, what I found is as soon as Twitter made photos available inline, they also added the ability to add filters to your photos. I just felt like, okay, you know what? My big community is really on Twitter, at least the most active community. And so there was less of a reason for me to go to Instagram. I know people have to kind of click out to it. And I just really felt like, you know what? I was okay with just using the Twitter app and adding filters to those photos. So that was kind of a shift. I literally just stopped using it one day, and I was on really early. I know we both were. And I just found like, you know what? I can't manage too many things. I mean, I'm even trying desperately to update Google Plus at least once or twice a week. And even sometimes I'm not able to do that. And I love their app. It's fabulous. But it feels more and more like I'm just putting so much of my energy into one social network, and that would be Twitter.
Yep. I definitely, it's funny, you would think, well, you know, if you want to make the most of Instagram and you take a photo that you really want to share with as much people as possible, I could cross-post to Twitter. I never do that on Instagram. I think it's because I know that when people post Instagram photos to Twitter, I'm sort of like, all right, I don't click on it, you know, and I think, I'm already following you on Instagram. Like, why did you have to cross-post this to Twitter? It does feel a little noisy, but for some reason, doing the same thing to Facebook doesn't bother me as much, and maybe it's because it integrates better with Facebook. Twitter and Instagram don't play well with each other. Instagram photos aren't in line, etc. You know, I also won't post an Instagram photo to Facebook for the most part unless people are in it, because I feel like Facebook, I don't post a lot of photos on Facebook unless it's of people that I can tag. That seems to be what people want on Facebook. So anyway, for that reason, if I take a picture of a beautiful sunset, it's like, it's not going anywhere besides Instagram.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much of a service I'm doing myself for keeping it within, you know, the little confines of an app, but that's just kind of what I'm doing. Yeah. Sunset pictures, by the way, are always big favorites, at least for my community. People love sunset photos. That was actually a sunrise, but
that
you know,
is
same
beautiful.
idea, same idea.
That is gorgeous. I just wanted to share a couple of comments that are coming in on Twitter while we're doing the show. One from Kevin who says, makes sense that guys don't use Instagram. I rarely see a guy taking a picture of normal stuff during the day to share. I like you, though, Sarah. I probably followed more guys on Instagram than females. Now, also, someone had written in, Bobby Parker, who's asked if we've talked about Twitter's new layout. And I just noticed this in the web version of Twitter half an hour before the show started and didn't have a chance to kind of research what they had done. But I am looking at the new layout for the web version of Twitter right now. And I know this isn't in our rundown, but it's really, really lightweight. I think that's the best way I can describe it as far as what I see.
I'm looking at it, too, and I don't know what's different besides a little grow your business on Twitter thing.
Mine looks quite different. I guess you can't really see that if I do that. That's not really helping. It definitely looks, it looks different to me. I don't know. So maybe I'll just quickly search and see what articles are out there. But
yeah, it also could be, I guess it could be rolling out slowly. Also,
I don't know.
I do not use web Twitter ever because I'm always using Tweetbot. Tweetbot is, I mean, even on, well, you know, this is the Mac program, but this is my app of choice. So web Twitter is, I feel like I will go to this version when something happens, like Amber, you say, oh, it looks different. I will go, oh, I want to see how it looks different. But I never use it this way anymore. Brian says that his is different, so.
Yeah, and I'm just looking, there's a couple articles. I guess they rolled out some of these changes just a day or so ago, saying some people will notice a new look. This is a CNN article on their desktops and laptops soon. In a post Monday, Twitter announced a refresh twitter.com, reflecting the feel of both of their Android and iOS apps. And it says the look won't be a change for some users. Twitter has been testing out the new design on only approximately 1% of people who use the site, studying their habits and making tweaks before rolling it out for everyone. There's a built-in compose box, the different location for a couple of things, but mainly it seems like it's just a little bit slicker, a little more lightweight. And I think the comment that it looks more like the app is definitely pretty relevant.
Yeah, Twitter wants all of its versions to look as much like each other as possible. So people like me are very annoying to Twitter because I'm like, what? I don't know. Whatever Twitter's doing is their business. I'm just going to use Tweetbot and be blissfully unaware of things like, you know, targeted advertising and stuff like that. Oh, the life. I will lead it as long as I can. I know it'll come to an end at some point. A quick reminder that our new time for the social hour, for those of you who want to watch and listen live, is Thursdays, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Although, of course, you can always go to twit.tv/TSH where you can keep up with the show. If you're not able to join us live, I don't know, maybe you're working or something that's really fancy, or you have a lot of lunches or happy hours, or I don't know, whatever you're doing. If you miss a show, you can keep up with us. Each episode page has not only links to all of the stories and the tips and the apps and other fun social stuff that we talk about, but you have links to subscribe to the show. If you've never done that, by the way, it's really easy. You can choose a variety of video or audio feeds that make the most sense for you. You know, whether you're watching on a mobile device or maybe a big TV at home, or maybe you like to listen while you're commuting. That's all very, very easy. We make it easy for you as well. It's completely free, of course. But thanks to everybody who watches and listens every week. All right, before we get into something that you added to the rundown, but I'm very excited about, Amber.
Yeah, one of Sarah's favorite things.
All I'm going to say about that right now. Let's take a moment to thank 99 Designs for sponsoring this episode of The Social Hour. We love 99 Designs because for people who really want, they've got a product that they've got to have a great graphic design slant to it, but they know that they're not at all the right people to make that happen. That's me. This is the perfect place for somebody like me, because I might say, well, I'm designing a mobile app. I mean, I've got a great idea, but I don't know how to make it look cool. Maybe just a business card. Maybe you're making t-shirts for your company. Maybe you just need a new logo for your website. All of that can be done with really, really talented people at 99 Designs. What you do is you tell 99 Designs what you're looking for. Here's my idea, here's my project. And then designers will submit designs that are created just for you. You then give them some feedback, you help the design become perfect, and then you select the one you like, and then you pay just for that design. It's great. So if you need a Facebook or a Twitter or social media design, that sort of thing, you want a cover photo that's just really, really gets the point across, what your brand is all about or who you are, 99 Designs can do that too. In fact, there's a social media page, designs from 99 Designs, that you can peruse and get a better idea of all the stuff that people can make for you using 99 Designs. And what's nice is that these designers are professionals. So you might even be one of those people who's like, I just want it to look good, but I almost don't even know how to explain that to you. That's the beauty of somebody who knows graphic design really well, is that they can kind of get an idea of what you want before you even realize that you want it. That's actually a great example of a cover photo on Facebook that was built by 99 Designs. See, I wouldn't know how to make something like that, but if somebody made that for me, I'd say, yes, this is perfect, this is great, thank you so much. Now you can start your next graphic design project for as low as $199. Just go to 99designs.com/social hour. And if you do that, you actually get something for free, a power pack of services. It's worth $99. It gives you more designer time and attention. You get your design featured basically in 99 Designs Marketplace. That gives you access to more designers overall. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing to throw in there, and that's completely free. We thank 99 Designs for their support of the Social Hour. Again, 99designs.com/social hour. Make a great graphic design. And if you're very happy with something that the 99 Designs community made for you, do let us know, and then we can feature you in a future show. All right, Amber, let's talk about that thing that I said made me so happy just a few minutes ago.
All right, Sarah, this is the only cat portion of the show, and this is about Little Bub. I believe we've talked about Little Bub's app before. The app is called Tuxedo Kitty. It's now available in the App Store and Google Play this week. Just came out, and I don't even know what this is. I mean, 9 photo effects and over 60 stickers. You can take pictures of things and make cats look like space invaders, or I don't know.
Well,
can you make sense of this all year?
I'm happy to show you a little bit more about how this works, actually.
Good, 'cause I'm struggling.
That's the whole thing about Little Bub. Is Little Bub, she's a space kitty. She came from an alien planet before she decided to come to the U.S. So a lot of these effects allow you to become more of a Bub-like character yourself. Power of Bub. Yeah, so the app is actually Tuxedo Kitty. I believe it's 99 cents, at least in the iOS App Store, and it's very nice to know that all of you Android users can enjoy it as well. But if I go ahead and say, let's say, use existing photo, and let's say, like, what do I want to do? Like, here's a picture of me and my friend Trish. Let's just pick that one. What's wrong with you? Took a second. And I say, I want to Little Bubify us. So I could go ahead and give myself, maybe like a little Bub disguise. You can rotate. So
like glasses.
Yeah, so there's like my little face. Maybe Trish can have some antennas over her head. Like, like a little space kitty, that sort of thing. And then you've got some beams, like, woo, beams coming out. And then nunchucks. Well, I don't know what that's all about. Okay, let's add some nunchucks. Maybe a little Bub, tongue. The whole thing is, as you can imagine, extremely silly, but it's a lot of fun for me, and at least people who are as weird as I am, who think that this is
cute,
adorable. Yeah, and then there's even like filters. I mean, it's like a Little Bub version of Instagram. Now that's way better than the original photo.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I think.
That takes it to a whole new level, Sarah.
This is actually something that I featured on i5, but I maybe I'm getting this wrong, but I believe that it's getting more attention now because it did open up to the Google Play Store, which it didn't originally have. And I know that there are a lot of Android fans out there that are Lil Bub fans as well.
I'm just glad that this is available on both platforms. I can sleep a whole lot better in the evenings now.
A bipartisan experience for sure.
Exactly. All right, so that's Tuxedo Kitty. It is actually kind of cute. If you're into Little Bub, you will absolutely love it. Now, this is our social tip for this week because LinkedIn has opened up a new section of their website, a new marketplace for volunteer opportunities. This is only available to U.S. users right now, but it will help you find volunteer opportunities in your own city. You can do unpaid nonprofit work. And I know people are always looking for volunteer opportunities and positions, and this is just an easier way to do it. So although most of us would prefer paid jobs, there's always room in people's days for doing some volunteer work as well.
Yeah, especially since, LinkedIn, even if you're just using LinkedIn as the place to, list all of your skills and where you've worked before, I find that some of the stuff that I learn the most about somebody is in their LinkedIn profile when they can talk about stuff that they've done like this. If there's a potential candidate that you're thinking of hiring and they can list not only can they find nonprofit work, but then they can list in special skills or areas of expertise a bunch of stuff that they've done that really can create I was about to use the word illusion. That's not right. Create just a sense of, oh, this person, wow, she did a lot of volunteer work at Habitat for Humanity or at a homeless shelter or with animals. I think that that's not only a good thing for LinkedIn to be able to provide, but it also helps you flesh out your LinkedIn profile itself.
Yeah, it really does. And I think based on this article in TechCrunch, they also talk about how LinkedIn is targeting students more now than they ever have. In fact, you now only have to be 14 years old to sign up to use LinkedIn. And I think for students who are looking for volunteer opportunities just to kind of beef up their resumes, it's a good way to get them hooked on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn has always impressed me over the years as being that network that's kind of slow and steady, rolling out interesting things, not all the time, but fairly frequently. And just to see them target a younger demographic, I think is a smart thing to do, because I would imagine, I don't have LinkedIn stats on me, that they probably skew a little bit older than some of the other networks that we've been talking about on the show today.
Yeah, I got to give it up to LinkedIn. I mean, ever since we started the Social Hour, LinkedIn has consistently been in our lineup of just like, here's what's new. LinkedIn is doing this interesting. I mean, it's a big community, and yes, you can think of it as like, LinkedIn's a little drier, it's all about jobs, and maybe it skews a little older, a little bit more businessy, but the company continues to innovate and provide a host of features that, I don't know, it has become more and more of a really relevant social network, and I did not think I was going to say that a few years ago.
Yeah, I know. I just spoke at a conference in Palm Springs on Monday, and I had someone in the audience raise their hand, and I think LinkedIn still struggles with this question from everyone. They asked, if I'm not looking for a job, how can I use LinkedIn? And LinkedIn is doing everything possible to try to change that, whereas I think they're repositioning the site as a place more about thought leadership, and just to see them open up to a younger audience. It always feels to me like they're just a more mature social network, and they just make smarter choices over time. So I think it'll be one of those networks that we keep talking about for the years to come.
I mean, if I just go to my LinkedIn homepage, right? I'm logged in, and it does. If I go to LinkedIn.com and not directly to my own profile, I can explore notable alumni from everybody who went to the same college that I went to. I've got my sort of feed. So not only did somebody that I used to work with at Tech TV get a new job, that's great, but I'm connected to a variety of people. So I'm actually getting, Chase Beaton got a new job too. That's great. It's just stuff that's happening in the world. Somebody had a work anniversary, 3 years, that sort of thing. So there is a lot to be able to check in on, whether you're looking for a job or not. I do agree with you that it's a challenge for LinkedIn to be relevant to people when it's not actually a tool for employment. but that's exactly what LinkedIn does.
They're trying.
Yeah, and there's original content people are writing, particularly it skews towards business and jobs, but there's even I think they call them like LinkedIn influencers network, where you get articles from Richard Branson and people of the world that other people say, ooh, I kind of look up to you as an entrepreneur, that sort of thing. There's a lot going on at LinkedIn.
There definitely is. Now, we have also talked a little bit on the social hour of the past couple of months about Snapchat and some of the advertising opportunities there, how brands were starting to work with Snapchat. I always think it can be kind of a final nail in the coffin of a social network that's popular, because once the brands get on board, I think people kind of ease away. But this is an interesting story about a brand that targets teenagers. It's called Wet Seal, and they recently hired a 16-year-old Snapchatter, I don't even know if that's the right term, who joined them and helped them to build their following on Snapchat. So this young individual started to use Snapchat and basically take over the corporate account and be involved in that, and help to increase the followers for that brand by about 9,000 people.
Really?
And got about 6,000 views of a certain story. And I don't know. I mean, I think we're going to see more and more of this happening, where brands kind of enlist the help of the generation who's actually using the services they're talking about.
I have to assume that this 16-year-old already had a healthy Snapchat community. So it's basically Wet Seal. I know the brand. I wore a lot of Wet Seal when I was in junior high. I don't think I really see Wet Seal at malls anymore. Maybe they're not in California so much. But yeah, I mean, it definitely skews young, and so it makes perfect sense that a bunch of adults who are running the company say, instead of our community manager trying to make sense of something that maybe is a little bit beyond our grasp, as far as acting like a 16-year-old, why not just hire one who has a following? And I'm sure, I don't know what the terms of the agreement were, but when I was 16, just a little bit of babysitting money made me really happy. So if there's some sort of an agreement here, it's kind of a good get.
Yeah. So this young woman, her name is Megan Hughes. She goes by Miss Megan Makeup. She is someone in the social media world who talks about makeup and beauty and fashion. She has 200,000 YouTube subscribers, 49,000 Twitter followers, and 101,000 Instagram followers. So it seems like the brand is doing exactly that. And I'm guessing, like you're saying, this is much more cost effective and probably more effective overall than going out and getting a big agency to try to connect with some of their fans, especially that demographic who I think are pretty savvy about connecting and would listen more to someone in their own community.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned like 41,000 Twitter followers, that's a ton, but over 100,000 Instagram followers. All she has to do is promote Wet Seal on Snapchat, here and there on Instagram.
That's it.
And yeah, it's like the audience, of course they would have to follow over, but if she's that popular and she's going to be posting cute pictures of herself, and she just happens to be wearing a new sweater from Wet Seal, it's like that actually can work really well for a brand.
Yeah, definitely. And just quickly, Sarah Prince on Twitter has just kind of gone back a story in our rundown and mentioned and asked if we've seen LinkedIn's new update for who's viewed your profile. And she sent us a picture of a new way you could kind of see information about who's viewed your profile. So once again, LinkedIn is kind of continuing to do some pretty neat little tweaks, micro tweaks to their service.
Neat little tweaks, but apparently, like, when did I even visit this guy? I don't even know who he is. Now, it shows me who I've recently visited, but also who's viewed my profile in the past 3 days. If I go ahead and click on that, that's where, like, it really shouldn't be a weird thing, but it could be sort of a weird thing because, what if it was somebody that wasn't looking at my employment history, but it was like like an ex-boyfriend or I don't know, something like that. It's like there is a little bit of, hey, think about who you're stalking on LinkedIn because they might know that you had visited their profile.
Yeah. I mean, I think you've always have to be conscious of that on LinkedIn, right? And I used to have a pro account that gave you better access to be able to do that. But I found after a while, you sort of, it kind of loses its excitement, right? We all kind of bounce around and look at different profiles. So I didn't find it all that useful as a tool. But I'm sure some people do find it useful, especially if you're looking for work and you want to see who's visited and checked you out as well.
All right, let's move on to our spotlight of the week. This sounds like it's a perfect social network for me because it's for people who live in tiny little boxes, AKA apartments.
Yeah, so this is great if you live in an apartment building and you want to have a network of people within that building who are part of your community. And I think this makes sense. It helps people get to know their neighbors a little bit better. The service is a social network that is specific to a certain location, like one apartment building or a condo complex. You basically go onto the site, you enter in your address of your building, and then you can connect with people there who are part of that community. So I'm surprised that nothing like this has existed before. I'm sure there have been attempts at this, but it seems like this one could have a pretty good chance. They have a relatively well-known advertising executive behind the service, and it looks like they plan to try to monetize the site eventually by offering up subscriptions to landlords, doing advertising, getting people like Home Depot to come on board, and it makes a lot of sense to me to be able to build those communities.
So, okay, so I read it as MyCoop, but I guess it's MyCoop.
Co-op, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. And that it is a very interesting model because it's not going to work for everybody. It probably works better in apartment buildings where it's like you have so many units you couldn't possibly really connect to anybody just meeting them, down by the mailboxes. So having a built-in service like this makes sense. It also sounds a lot like Nextdoor, which is a service that we've talked about Nextdoor in the past. It's a service that connects you with people in your neighborhood. It's actually zip code based. So, I'm in the neighborhood in San Francisco that, is the same zip code as me, pretty much. And so that's pretty helpful, especially if there's going to be a garage sale on Saturday and they just want to blast out to people who are pretty close and would care about that sort of thing, or maybe a lost pet, or there's all sorts of stuff that happens on Nextdoor. Hey, anybody have a vacuum I can use for an hour, that sort of thing. But this is different, and I think for me, because I do live in apartment buildings, it's interesting because I just moved from a building where there were 15 units, so that's not huge, but it's a decent size, and it's like I didn't know anybody. I didn't feel like after a year, it's like I didn't even really know anybody's name, even if I said hi to them in the hallway. And now I'm in yet another building, and it would be kind of cool. Of course, everybody kind of has to participate, but it would be cool to have. It's sort of just like a little, I don't know, a renters union of some kind that somebody else built for us.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Strangely enough, I spoke at a conference recently that was filled with a bunch of landlords, and they were looking at new ways to be able to connect. So I think from a landlord's perspective, this makes a ton of sense. So even if the residents aren't necessarily always going on there on a regular basis to connect and socialize, if a landlord can get those people connected so he can push out messaging to people who are living in the building, in that sense, I think it makes a lot more sense. If there are certain repairs that are happening, maybe someone lost something in the lobby, whatever it might be, I think this gives landlords a really interesting opportunity to finally kind of bring people together and have an easier conversation in the digital space than they've ever been able to do before. So I think if they focus on that, being able to acquire that landlord and get that landlord to really buy into this idea, that they could be pretty successful.
I think so too. Yeah, it's better than an email thread, really. And well, for me it would be anyway, because I hate email. I want to show you the site, by the way. They're having some issue right now, so this is definitely not what it looks like. It looks like we're getting some sort of a strange error with the site, but it's mycoop.com. So COOP.com if you want to check it out. Hopefully that's just temporary. Maybe so many people went and looked at the site that we brought it to its knees. Okay, we got an email from Steve who had some success with HipChat, which we talked about. Was that last week or 2 weeks ago, Amber? I think it was last week.
I think it was last week or the week before. I'm not quite sure, but a neat little service that allows businesses, particularly small businesses, to have a chat platform that requires really no technical maintenance, since all the information's in the cloud and free for under 5 members. So it seems like it's kind of up and coming and getting some attention. Yeah, Steve says, I work for a small but growing distributed team at youneedabudget.com. We've been using HipChat for several years. He says it's flexible, it covers all the platforms, provides us with a feel of being at work, even though our team is spread out thousands of miles from each other. Allows us to collaborate in real time using specific rooms designed to cover different aspects of our business. He says it even draws us closer as friends. We even have an office wall room where we post light-hearted bantering and pictures of the kids or local weather, whatever. He says,
mostly it brings us closer while not distracting us from the work that we all need to do. It's also the fastest way to bring attention to team members when urgent matters come up. HipChat will notify you via email, even if you aren't logged in. See, that's the perfect service to me. I mean, that's the kind of use case where I say, okay, well, obviously it works, because that's what we all want out of a job, right? We want to be able to collaborate as efficiently as possible with our coworkers. But there is a camaraderie involved, and certainly involved with everybody gathering in the kitchen here at Twit. It's somebody's birthday and there's pie in the kitchen, that sort of thing. You can't really do that when you're remote, so you have to rely on other tools in order to communicate and like each other. And there is a lightheartedness that comes along with working with others. Hopefully, at least at least a little bit, even in the most demanding jobs. And so Steve, you should write to HipChat if you haven't already and let them know that you like it so much.
Yeah, let them know. I'm pretty sure that they're on Twitter too, but I do like this idea. I think like you, Sarah, if it means you get fewer emails at the end of the day and you're able to be more collaborative and more productive and just get more stuff done overall, it's kind of a cool service. So I said I was going to try it out. I haven't tried it out yet, but I'm going to.
All right, HipChat, Amber, she's getting on it. Reminder that we love hearing from you, emails, voicemails, talking to us on Twitter, chatting in the chat. If you're following along live, is all great. The social hour at twit.tv is the email address to use. If you want to send us a voicemail, it's 2626-SOCIAL. Try to keep it to 30 seconds or less. I know that can be a challenge, but do try so that we can add it to the show. 2626-SOCIAL. Videos are welcome as well, as long as you send us the link to the video and not the video file itself. All right, Amber, it is time. We're almost at the end of our hour, but we wouldn't finish it without a rad or fad.
Okay, so this is for people who dream of quitting their job, and perhaps one day they decide to quit their job and they want a better way to be able to do it. Maybe they're scared of the face-to-face interaction that they may have with their boss, and they want to do something that is I don't want to say more subtle, but something that gets them away from having that face-to-face conversation. This is an app called Quit Your Job, which is getting some attention online. It allows you to text your boss and quit your job that way. You can choose a number of reasons for quitting. One of them is, I'm sick of the corporate world. I want to get rich, and I found a new job. And you can even put in a specific little message. Now, this is kind of a joke, Sarah, I think, for the most part. However, I can see people doing this. People text to break up with people, so I'm sure this is not that different in some people's minds.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek version of something that is actually somewhat relevant, right? Because sometimes people feel stuck somewhere and they, I don't know, they wouldn't know how to start the conversation of moving on or that sort of thing. Can you imagine? Oh my gosh. I mean, I would say quitting via text is probably the worst way I can think of quitting anything. I mean, it's worse than a phone call. It's worse than email. It's certainly worse than in person. I mean, it's the most passive-aggressive way to quit ever. However, it's probably, built on the fact that a lot of people, I don't know, they don't see a way out or so. I don't even know what to make of this. Quit your job. Yeah. Is it free?
I think it is free. So let's take a look. I believe, it is free. So I don't know. You know what? I do not want to encourage anyone who is watching to use this because I don't want you to lose your job. But if you know anyone who would consider this, we would love to hear about it because I do think there are people who would consider it. And maybe, teens who have hourly jobs where they're just barely making minimum wage. Maybe this is something that they would want to use. I did have a job when I was a teen, and I remember I do believe I didn't quit via text message, but I think I left a message or something. I was quite young and I was just done with that job. So if you need that type of freedom, maybe a good option. Okay, so let's say I was in some awful banking job. No offense to bankers at all. It just doesn't sound like it would be right for me. But let's say that, let's make a hypothetical situation. I'm sick of the corporate world. Going back to school, I'm becoming a yogi or I'm joining the circus. I'm going to become a yogi. That sounds good. Who's getting the message? Oh, so it could be to your boss, your partner, or your friend. Well, maybe I'm just going to tell my friends, not my boss. Quit your job would like access to your contacts. Oh, boy.
Okay. Oh, and then I tell them. And that's sort of the end of okay. And that's it. And then I don't even, okay, well, let's say that I want to tell Jay Adelson, major life event load. This is going to be real. I hope that they, okay, so if I were to actually send this, the message that he would get is, Jay, I come into work every day, sit at my desk, and click endlessly on my screen. My mind goes completely blank. So I'm pretty sure I have this whole meditation thing down. I decided to take it to the next level and work on my mind-body connection. So I bought a year-long membership to the trendiest yoga studio, blah, 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 blah. So today I quit. I'm never wearing real pants again. Well, this is actually kind of awesome, actually. I don't know. This is radder than I thought it was at the beginning.
It is.
Pretty weird.
The only reason that I do want to put it in a rad category is because I have a lot of respect for people who decide to quit their jobs and do something that they're really passionate about. I had a boss years ago who was very successful in the broadcast industry, quit his job to pursue yoga. Well, he didn't actually quit. There was more to it than that. But nonetheless, he pursued a yoga career and became an instructor. So it's kind of good to see people step away and do something they're really passionate about. But I would not be brave enough to use this.
No.
But there are elements of it being kind of rad.
I feel like, and I'm sure there's some exceptions, that there is not one boss out there that would be happy to be on the receiving end of this sort of like wink, wink, I'm quitting app.
It's not going to go well.
It may not go over well, but I think that it's kind of just a funny, rad app. Especially since it's free. I mean, they're not making you pay $2.99 or anything to have a laugh or two. And maybe if you're actually an unhappy person, nobody should be, and it would at least get you thinking a little bit more about what you're looking for in life. I don't know. I'm being pretty optimistic here, but maybe there's actually some practical some help to get out of quit your job app.
I think they cover themselves in the explanation, at least on the iTunes store. They say this app is intended for entertainment purposes only and does not provide true quitting job notice functionality. So, and then they have a little duh in brackets. So it's kind of a fun one. We do not recommend it, but if you use it, please let us know.
This is just for fun, but if you actually use it successfully, we'd love to know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and say this is rad in its own little funny way.
Yes.
Sure. All right. Well, that is it for this edition of the Social Hour. It was a lovely hour indeed. A lot of stuff in our hour, and I think we kept it to exactly an hour. Remember,
pretty much.
We are now live on Thursdays, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Amber and I are very comfortable in our new time slots.
We are.
And Amber, before we meet again this time next week, are you doing any speaking engagements? I didn't even know you were in Palm Springs earlier this week.
Yeah, I was just in Palm Springs for a day. It took me like 30 hours to get home because of bad weather in Calgary. So that was an adventure on its own. I have a speaking engagement tomorrow, and I'm going to, I think, Phoenix, Las Vegas, New Orleans, a few places. But strangely enough, Sarah, it doesn't seem to interfere with the Social Hour schedule at all, at least for the next couple of months. So I will be here on Thursdays, super happy with the new time slot. And it seems like we're getting lots of interaction online during the show as well. And for people who are listening afterwards, please check out the video. It's always a different experience. More cats.
Very true. You get to see more cats. You get to see Amber in her home studio or wherever she may be. Last week it was at a, I don't know, it looked like a spaceship in Kentucky, which was also cool. But you never know with us. You never know with us. We try to keep it interesting. Of course, our website, twit.tv/TSH. Keep up with us there. And until next week, we'll see you online.
All right. I'll see you soon.